Good evening, I'm Jason Vio. This is CBC Windsor News at 6. Thank you so much for watching. Our top story tonight, jobs. A new EV supply company is coming to Windsor at a time when U.S. President Donald Trump has turned his back on the EV industry. Dawson Chen takes us through the investment that promises dozens of jobs.
A $69 million facility that makes materials for electric vehicle batteries is coming to Windsor. Neo Battery Materials Limited is an Ontario company with a South Korean subsidiary. Danny Han, Senior VP of Strategy and Operations, says the site will be the company's first major investment in Canada. Once fully operational, the plant is expected to employ more than 100 people.
Yes, we are obviously making efforts to hire locally. Our first strategy is to bring in experts from the world that have actual expertise within battery materials manufacturing. But ultimately what we want to do is we want to grow out as an ecosystem here within Windsor as well as Ontario, training Canadian employees and Canadians to become one of the leaders within battery materials manufacturing as well as technology.
The facility will develop silicon anode materials, part of the supply chain for EV batteries. The 87,000 square foot plant will be built on 8 acres of surplus land at Windsor's airport. Han said construction is expected to begin in the latter half of 2025, with completion in the next 5 years. The project is benefiting from a City of Windsor grant. Mayor Drew Dilkens joined company representatives in their announcement in Windsor. Earlier this week, one of U.S. President Donald Trump's first executive orders was to repeal the EV targets set by the Biden administration. But Windsor's mayor says he's not worried.
Some people have said to me, well, you know, Donald Trump this and Donald Trump that, and he's going to kill this and he's going to stop this. I own an electric vehicle. I don't ever want to go back. I think they're the most incredible machines. And so I think you understand where the market's going, and that even if there is a, let's call it a 4-year hiccup or a 4-year pause or 4 years where it's not going to be quite as fast as maybe we anticipated, I think the technology is just going to get better.
Neo Battery Materials Limited also dismissed concerns about Trump's negative impact on the EV market.
Oh no, we're untethered, and we're completely excited about the journey that we are taking because silicon anodes is what ultimately is going to drive the innovation within the next 5 to 10 years. So we're not too concerned about the short-term differences or changes within the policy.
Dilkens hinted at future announcements involving the EV supply chain in the region. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
This next story highlights the danger posed when sidewalks are not properly cleared. It involves a railway track and a man in a wheelchair in distress. Katerina Georgieva has those details.
It was like something out of a movie, a rescue involving a man in a wheelchair waving for help, a good Samaritan, and an incoming train just around the corner. A close call last week is highlighting issues around accessibility in the winter months.
And this is Lausanne Road heading north. It's old Lausanne Road. And there's the parking lot where I parked my car. And I ran up here, across the snowbank and up and over to get him. So he was dislodged. He was stuck in the tracks right here. It's very thick ice, and I think the snow was very compacted and it looked very slippery too, because my little red heel boots were sliding on it also, that's why it was giving me such a hard time to move him. So he was sliding because he was on ice and he was trying to get up over the track. But when the front wheel slid in, that was it.
This is where it happened. A lot more snow at the time. But Reno says that she pushed and pushed to try and free the man, but it was a real struggle. She even tried to flag down somebody to stop for help, but nobody did. Eventually, after a few more attempts, relief.
I knew there was a higher power at that moment. Finally, we got him down. I got him dislodged, and I told him, please don't ever go this way again if you see ice and snow, because you're going to get stuck. And promise me you'll go right home. And he said, I just want to say thank you, and God bless you. And I said, I just want to make sure you get home now. I want you to start going down. And he started to drive down, and I started walking maybe another 20 feet, and I heard ding, 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 and I thought, you have got to be kidding me. And I turned to look, and I saw the wigwags coming down, and that's when my knees started to shake. And what would have happened had I not dislodged him? That's That's what was really hard.
Reno says that she called the city right after asking somebody to deal with the path, and the city did confirm that they spoke with somebody and explained to me that they have to follow rail authority best management practices. That means they do clear paths at crossings, but they need to be careful to not damage the tracks, which means that there's sometimes a bit of snow left over. Also, they're not allowed to use salt or any chemicals because it can lead to corrosion of the tracks or cause issues with the electrical signals. The city asks the public to be extra careful when passing over crossings, especially on bad weather days. That's also the advice of disability advocate and wheelchair user Kevin McShann.
Find an alternative route if you can, and if you have to use railroad tracks when possible, bring someone with you who can assist you.
He says in the winter especially, it is so important paths get cleared so that wheelchairs have freedom of movement and people have independence. He says the city does the best it can with the resources it has, but says there is room for improvement.
Certainly, I do think the city has to bring more people with lived experience who have a disability to the table to better address these incidents when they happen.
We don't know who the man was who Reno helped. She never got his name. She's just grateful that he is safe, and she hopes that nothing like this ever happens again. She also implores anybody who is responsible for a sidewalk to make sure that it is always kept clear so that anybody can safely pass in all types of weather.
And Colette Kennedy joins us now for a look at weather. Hey, Colette.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. It was a nice day out for the most part today. A little bit more mild than yesterday. Flurries made it feel like a snow globe. I wasn't complaining.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nice to have those temperatures come up a little bit, even if in many cases they're still a bit below seasonal. They're better than what they have been. And we're getting into kind of a situation with a series of systems moving through. As they do, they bring to us generally what we're just talking about here, some light flurry activity, so we'll continue to have that into the evening hours. Elsewhere in the province, it's much more than that with lake effect snows, but overnight tonight, minus 13, feeling still close to minus 20. Tomorrow, increase in cloudiness, few flurries possible, and minus 6. A bit more of a warm up in the weekend. I'll have details coming up.
All right, thanks, Colette. We'll see you a little later in the show.
So.
A senior PC source confirms to CBC News that Premier Doug Ford is planning to call an election next Wednesday. That would make Election Day in the province February 27th. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has more.
At an announcement at pharmaceutical company AstraZeneca, the Premier not shying away from election talk, as he offered high praise for the company's president and what he heard from Health Minister Sylvia Jones.
So right away, like a good deputy premier does, she whispers in my ear, do you think we could recruit him for the election coming up?
His response later, when he was asked about January 29th.
That's not my birthday.
Is that going to be the day that you're going to be going to the Lieutenant Governor and asking for an election?
Let's just stay tuned. We need a mandate from the people.
This weekend, they're holding what they're calling a super caucus meeting for all PC candidates. In an email, Ford's campaign manager writing that it will provide you with the tools, training, and resources needed for a winning election campaign, including headshots with the Premier, door-knocking training, and strategies on signage. Today's event with the Premier was one of several news conferences with PC ministers, seeming to flood the zone, as they say. So why does Ford want to face voters now?
Doug Ford has been consistently ahead in the polls over the past several months. This fight with Donald Trump in Washington and his role as sort of self-appointed Captain Canada has upped his standing and upped his profile in Ontario. I think even his critics have given him a fair amount of credit. So now seems like an ideal time to take advantage of this popularity.
The opposition leader met with unionized auto workers today, the types of people the NDP relies on for votes.
This election is going to be not just about protecting Ontario jobs, it's also going to be about, is your life any better today than it was 7 years ago? And most Ontarians are going to say clearly, it's not.
The Ontario Liberal leader took aim at the Premier on CBC's Power and Politics.
He should be protecting jobs and preparing us for the threat south of the border, and he's failed to do that up until now. He hasn't diversified our economy. He hasn't diversified our trading partner. He hasn't done his job. And now he's asking for another mandate.
Self-defense or aggravated assault. That's what an Ottawa judge is considering in the trial of Windsor Police Sergeant Dellar Ball. Closing submissions wrapped up today in an Ottawa courtroom. That's the city where this altercation took place on September 23rd, 2023, inside the bathroom of a bar. Take a look at this surveillance video played in court showing the fight spilling over into the hallway. Take a look at this. The man throwing the punches in this video is Officer Dellar Ball, off duty at the time. The other guy is Ottawa man Donald Connor. Connor testified that what happened in the bathroom prior to this was unprovoked and all started because Ball mistakenly tried to open the unlocked stall Connor was in. But Ball testified that Connor was the aggressor in this fight and that he threw punches after feeling threatened and as a way to create space between them. Ball testified that Connor pulled his sweater over his head, threw him against the wall, and put his hands around his neck while he was on the ground. Because this is alleged to have happened inside the bathroom, there's no surveillance video to corroborate either testimony. There's a lot more to read on this story on our website, cbc.ca/Windsor, and the judge is set to make a decision in this case on February 20th. Well, it's deadline day for the entry into the Liberal leadership race. Candidates must have submitted a $50,000 deposit by the evening. Ontario MP Karina Gould is one of at least 6 who have already declared they're running.
I have just left the party office where I deposited my papers to be an official candidate in the upcoming leadership race.
In addition to Gould, former Deputy PM and Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland has already announced she is seeking the top spot. So has former Bank of Canada Governor Mark Carney, and he has the endorsement of 7 current and 2 former cabinet ministers. They include Foreign Affairs Minister Melanie Joly. Freeland has 3 cabinet endorsements so far, including Health Minister Mark Holland, plus the backing of 2 former ministers. The other contenders are 3 sitting Liberal MPs and a former MP. The party says it will take 10 days to approve and release the final list of candidates. And the nominations are now out for the 97th Academy Awards. This year's announcement had been delayed because of the Los Angeles wildfires. CBC's Eli Glasner has more on the Oscar nods and the perceived snubs.
The nominations have been announced, and this is where the Oscar race gets serious, with the film leading the pack with 13 nominations. Amelia Perez, a Spanish-language movie musical about a drug cartel boss, Carla Sofia Gascon, the actor who plays Amelia Perez, now making history as the first openly transgender woman to be nominated in the Best Actress category. Let's move on and take a look at The Brutalist, receiving 10 nominations. Adrian Brody playing a Jewish immigrant who comes to America trying to find work as an architect. Guy Pearce as his rich patron who begins to fund his dreams of these amazing buildings that he designed. But tied in second place in terms of nominations with The Brutalist is Wicked, starring Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, who are now both Oscar nominees for the movie musical based on the Broadway smash. Universal Language was on the long list for Best International Feature, this amazing film set in a different kind of Winnipeg, but it was overlooked, as was Pamela Anderson for her fine work in The Last Showgirl, where she plays this aging Las Vegas dancer who sees how her life is changing. That was not nominated, but Sebastian Stan was, and that is perhaps a bit of a surprise considering the fact that he was nominated for his work in The Apprentice, a movie about a young Donald J. Trump, which Trump's lawyers tried to stop from being released. One more film I wanted to mention is Sugarcane. This is a documentary from 2 Canadian filmmakers taking a look at what happened inside the St. Joseph's Mission, a residential school in British Columbia. It comes from 2 Canadian filmmakers, as one of the filmmakers talks to his father about what actually happened inside the walls of that residential school following an investigation into the same school. It is nominated in the documentary category. And so there you go. There are your nominations. The show will go on March 2nd, even with fires burning in the background. The organizers are adamant that the Oscars will continue. Eli Glasner, CBC News, Toronto.
Donald Trump has taken his threats against Canada to the global stage. Trump spoke remotely at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. As Chris Reyes reports, Trump continued to insist this country treats the United States unfairly.
President Donald Trump addressed the global community at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, virtually from Washington, D.C. He touched on a long list of topics, a lot of them domestic, from border security to inflation, but also on issues that have direct impact on Canada and the rest of the world. Now, Trump didn't mention annexation or the 25% tariff threat, but he did talk extensively about what he wants to change when it comes to U.S.-Canada relations.
We're going to be demanding respect from other nations. Canada, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. We're not going to have that anymore. We can't do it. Canada has been very tough to deal with over the years, and it's not fair that we should have a $200 billion or $250 billion deficit. We don't need them to make our cars, and they make a lot of them. We don't need their lumber because we have our own forests, et cetera, et cetera. We don't need their oil and gas.
Something else that has direct impact on Canada, the Trump position on the NATO alliance. Here's what he said about that.
We restore common sense in America. We're moving quickly to bring back strength and peace and stability abroad. I'm also going to ask all NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, which is what it should have been years ago. It was only at 2%, and most nations didn't pay until I came along. I insisted that they pay, and they did, because the United States was really paying the difference at that time, and it was unfair to the United States. But many, many things have been unfair for many years.
Other parts that are particularly relevant to Canada, Trump's big criticism of the Paris climate deal, which Canada is a signatory of. He called it one-sided. And he talked about scrapping the Green New Deal here in the United States, called it a scam. This is a program that has parallels in Canada. And in this speech, Trump seemed to be casting himself as a banner holder for these policy positions. Nationalist, populist, anti-regulatory, skeptical of global coalitions and government-directed response to climate change. Will this embolden the CEOs and world leaders in those rooms to also take up these talking points? That's the shift that we are going to be closely watching with the Trump administration. Chris Reyes, CBC News, Washington.
And Trump has also talked a lot about building border walls, but a newly installed fence in BC bisecting the Canada-US border has been causing quite a stir, and it has nothing to do with the US president. John Hernandez explains.
There's no barbed wire and it's not that tall, but this newly installed fence running along a short stretch of the US-Canada border has caused a big stir in this small community.
All this is going to do is hassle honest families who are trying to visit each other. I mean, it's bizarre. Absolutely useless. I could climb over it even at my age.
Point Roberts resident Brian Calder first noticed it last week. 60 meters of chain link fence installed on January 16th, severing an international hangout spot that became a critical hub during the pandemic.
The way we'd visit our family is they'd come right on the road you're standing on right there, and we'd be here, and they'd bring a picnic basket and a table and little lawn chairs. We'd sit down and we'd visit. And they do that to this day up until last Wednesday when this went up.
But this border wall has nothing to do with Trump or even Canadian border security. It was built as a safety precaution. In November 2023, an elderly man wandered across the border into Point Roberts. He went missing and was eventually found dead. Delta Police recommended a fence be built, and city engineers followed through.
I think the timing also is a little bit unfortunate. There's a lot of, I guess, politics around walls and borders and crossing.
This Delta City councillor thinks the wall does a lot more harm than good.
It's a symbol. And, Canada and America have been friends for, more than 100 years, and we're good friends. And I don't feel particularly right about putting a barrier up between two friends.
Local First Nations have also expressed frustrations.
There was no consultation, I believe, with First Nation parties that live here.
A controversial containment that could soon come down. Councillor Boisvert plans to introduce a motion at his city council to bring this fence down. John Hernandez, CBC News, Delta.
Hey, Colette.
Hi, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
Good. What's going on?
Not a whole lot. I was telling Chris Potter last night that I came back from the Bahamas last week
Oh.
on a little cruise, and it wasn't as warm as I thought a place like that would be. It's obviously much better than what we have here, but
right.
The water was chilly, it was a bit windy, the temperature was even not hot, like a tropical kind of hot weather sort of thing, but
yes.
it was strange. It was strange. I guess it makes sense with what we're seeing now, in Florida and all those southern states and stuff. But
yeah, and the Bahamas not being as far south kind of thing too. I have friends who have a place there, and they'll send photos, and it'll be like they'll be in a windstorm and covered in blankets or something on the beach some days, and then other times it's fabulous. So it's a little
up and down. I know that sounds like my wife. Like I was in the water with the kids and she was on the beach on a chair in her sweater and a towel covering her up.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh well, we all have different tolerances, I guess.
Yes. Oh, do you like the blue? I should put the blue key wall down. And see what that looks like with the blue. Do you know that you can get casts in black, white, and blue? I did not either until they told me, and so I asked for white or black, thinking one of those would be more discreet. And then she went and then came back and said, we're out of them. So it's blue. So, okay, I'm just like a kid. Yeah. What are you going to do?
90.
Okay.
Time now for a look at weather. Colette Kennedy joins us live. Colette, those flurries kind of sticking around today, but I'll admit though, I'm kind of secretly waiting for a big dumping of snow just to go sledding, build a snowman, that sort of thing.
Yes, it's so nice when it's fresh like that too, right? I could send you a few areas in the province if you're okay to travel where there's fresh snow coming with the lake effect, especially with a few systems kind of going through. We get the southwesterly breeze and that puts the snow in one area and northwesterly puts it in another off the lake. But yes, we're just dealing with some light flurries, a little milder. You don't always say that about -5, but this time yesterday the temperature was -11. So that -5, certainly an improvement. Those winds have turned towards the northwest. They're not terribly strong, but it is enough to give us a wind chill of -10. That's an improvement too. This time yesterday, wind chill was -20. We still have some cold air kind of coming in behind the system though, so the temperatures do fall off tonight. We will have wind chills tomorrow morning close to that -20 once again, but we're seeing less and less activity here as the system moves through. But the winds on the back side of it, that's what tends to drive these squalls. And so in the lee of Lake Huron and around Georgian Bay, sure, there'll be more significant fresh snowfall, another 10 to 15 centimeters. And as I was saying, we kind of have a series of these coming through. So that one departs. As we get into tomorrow, you'll see hopefully some sunshine early, but then we'll have some increasing cloudiness and becoming mostly cloudy as the day wears on. And then this next system will be moving in as we go into Saturday. And would you believe? Yes, I hope you do. There's another one coming for Sunday as well. So quite a bit of cloud cover through much of the weekend, certainly on Saturday. Get a little break between the two, and then that next one brings more cloud cover and the chance for some flurries, but also some breezy conditions at times to deal with. So this is a look at those overnight temperatures: minus 13 for Windsor, minus 14 Leamington, Chatham, Kent, minus 15. Yeah, definitely some colder air that's moving in. Looking though ahead, do you notice something here? Let me take you through it. I think you can see for yourself though the warm up coming. So tomorrow, okay, it's minus 6, minus 11 overnight Friday, so still chilly on Saturday morning, but that next system will push the temperatures up to minus 1 for Saturday with some of those flurries. A mix of sun and cloud into Sunday, but minus 2. And what do I see? Did I forget to put the negative on? No, actually above freezing on Monday.
There we go, a +1. What a change. All right. Thanks so much, Colette. That's it for us here at CBC Windsor News. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, for news anytime, head to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. See you tomorrow.
Good night.